Before you quit, before you shut the door on your dream, pause. Because the moment you're about to give up is often the moment everything is about to change. Listen to this once. It might save years of regret. There comes a moment in every serious life where quitting feels logical. Not dramatic, not emotional, logical. You've tried. You've failed. You've put in effort and the results didn't match the sacrifice. And your mind starts doing math. It calculates the pain, the uncertainty, the time you've lost. And it whispers something dangerous. This isn't worth it anymore. That whisper is familiar, almost comforting, because quitting promises relief. Relief from pressure. If you're relief from disappointment. Relief from looking foolish for believing in something that hasn't worked yet. But here's the part no one tells you. That voice doesn't show up when you're wrong. It shows up when you're close. Every meaningful breakthrough in history sat right on the edge of exhaustion. Right where doubt feels rational and persistence feels stupid. That's the testing ground. Not to see if you're talented, but to see if you're serious. Understand this clearly. If the path were easy, you wouldn't want it. If the resistance weren't heavy, the destination wouldn't matter. The world doesn't reward intention. It rewards endurance. And endurance only reveals itself when quitting becomes tempting. You think this moment is evidence that you should stop. It's not. It's evidence that you're finally doing something real. Right now, you're not tired of the goal. You're tired of the struggle. And those two things are not the same. So before you walk away, before you tell yourself a story about why it wasn't meant to be, recognize where you are. You are standing at the exact point where most people turn back. And that's precisely why going forward matters. Because what comes next is the difference between a life of almost and a life of impact. Quitting rarely announces itself as fear. It comes disguised as intelligence. It sounds like being realistic. It sounds like knowing your limits. It sounds like maturity. Your mind starts collecting evidence. It replays every setback, every delay, every moment where effort didn't pay off. And then it reaches a conclusion that feels responsible. Maybe this just isn't for me. That sentence has ended more potential than failure ever could. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You cannot accurately judge your future from the middle of the process. Yet that's exactly when most decisions are made. Right in the fog. Right when the picture is incomplete. Progress is not linear. It never was. Real progress looks messy. It looks inefficient. It looks like long periods of silence followed by sudden acceleration. But when you're inside it, all you see is the silence. So your brain fills the gap with doubt. It tells you others are ahead because they're better. It tells you the struggle means you're doing it wrong. It tells you stopping now is strategic. But strategy without data is just emotion wearing a suit. Every complex problem feels impossible until one variable shifts. One insight. One iteration. One extra attempt when you were convinced nothing would change. That's how breakthroughs happen. Not with certainty, but with stubborn curiosity. Think about this. If quitting were wisdom, it wouldn't hurt. It would feel clean. It would feel calm. But it doesn't. It feels heavy. It feels unfinished. Because deep down, you know you're not done. You're just uncomfortable. Discomfort is not a signal to retreat. It's a signal that your old limits are being challenged. And limits don't disappear through motivation. They disappear through exposure. Through staying in the game long enough for your nervous system, your skills, and your thinking to catch up with the demand. So before you call this clarity, ask yourself a harder question. Am I making a decision, or am I escaping a feeling? Because the moment you confuse the two, you trade long-term meaning for short-term relief. And relief has never built anything worth keeping. There's a reason quitting feels tempting. It works immediately. The moment you decide to stop, the pressure drops. Your shoulders relax. The future stops demanding answers from you. For a brief moment, the noise in your head goes quiet, and your brain rewards that silence with relief. That relief is powerful, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. Your brain is not designed to build greatness. It's designed to conserve energy and avoid pain. So when you remove a challenge, if your nervous system celebrates, it doesn't care what you lost. It only cares that the threat is gone. But here's the cost no one calculates. In that moment, relief is temporary. Regret is permanent. The discomfort you're feeling right now has a purpose. It's shaping your tolerance. It's upgrading your ability to sit with uncertainty, to operate without guarantees, to move forward without applause. Those are not optional skills. They are the price of doing anything meaningful. When you quit, you don't just walk away from a project or a goal. You train yourself to escape when things get hard. And that lesson doesn't stay in one area of your life. It spreads. The next time resistance shows up, your brain remembers, last time quitting worked, so it suggests it again, earlier, louder. This is how people shrink without realizing it. Not because they failed once, but because they made retreat a habit. The irony is this: the pain you're trying to avoid by quitting is often the final layer before growth. The frustration, the boredom, the self-doubt. These are not signs of misalignment. They are signs of proximity. Think about every skill you admire, every level of mastery you respect. None of it was built in comfort. It was built by people who stayed when the excitement wore off and the grind became invisible. Right now, your job is not to feel inspired, it's to stay. Stay long enough for the difficulty to teach you something. Stay long enough for your mind to adapt. Stay long enough to find out who you become when quitting is no longer your first option. Because once you remove quitting from the menu, something incredible happens. You start finding solutions you couldn't see before. One of the quiet reasons people quit is comparison. You look around and it seems like everyone else is moving faster, winning earlier, figuring it out sooner. And without realizing it, you start measuring your worth against someone else's timeline. That comparison distorts reality. You are not seeing their early confusion. You are not seeing their abandoned versions, their private failures, their long stretches of doubt. You are seeing a highlight, not the cost. And when you compare your behind the scenes to someone else's outcome, quitting starts to feel justified. But progress doesn't follow a schedule, it follows preparation. Some paths require a long runway, not because you're slow, but because what you're building needs more structure to hold its weight. Early speed without foundation collapses. Delayed momentum with strong systems lasts. Right now you might feel late, but in many cases, you're actually early. Early in understanding the problem deeply. Early in developing resilience. Early in learning how not to do it. And those lessons compound in ways success never could. There's also a truth people avoid. Not everyone is meant to move fast at the same time. Some people sprint early and plateau. Others grind quietly and explode later. History favors the second group, not because they were gifted, but because they stayed curious when no one was watching. Think about where you are honestly. Are you really behind? Or are you just in the part of the journey that doesn't look impressive yet? Quitting now because you don't look successful enough is like walking out of a movie halfway through and assuming the ending will be bad. You haven't seen enough. Momentum is deceptive. It hides until it's ready, and when it arrives, it doesn't ask for permission from your past doubts. So instead of asking, "Why am I not there yet?" ask, "What is this phase preparing me for?" Because the version of you who can handle the outcome you want is not the version you are yet. That version is being built right now, in the delay, in the uncertainty, in the discipline of continuing when validation is absent. You're not behind, you're becoming. The most powerful work is rarely visible. No one claps for the early mornings, the late nights, the silent repetitions. No one sees the rejection emails, the failed experiments, the mistakes that feel too big to recover from. And yet, this invisible work is everything. You might feel invisible right now, like the world isn't noticing, like your efforts are meaningless. That's exactly where the most meaningful transformation begins. Because when nobody is watching, you're forced to rely on discipline instead of validation, on curiosity instead of applause, on your own standards instead of everyone else's opinions. Imagine building a rocket. The final launch looks glamorous, but the success is built on thousands of invisible hours calculations, simulations, tests, adjustments. Every setback, every tiny failure is stored in the system, preparing it to handle pressure when it counts. Life works the same way. Every rejection, every lonely grind, every time you push forward when quitting seems easier, is building a system in you that cannot be undone. The danger comes when you abandon the invisible work. When you quit because you don't see immediate results. When you decide that only visible outcomes matter. In that moment, you teach your mind to value recognition over mastery, comfort over growth, and the next challenge will feel impossible. Here's the truth. If progress compounds silently, like interest in a bank, your efforts accumulate behind the scenes. One day, the invisible work explodes into something tangible. A breakthrough, an opportunity, a shift you could not have predicted. But it requires patience, persistence, and the courage to stay consistent when results are absent. So before you give up, remember, the world may not see you. That doesn't mean the work is wasted. It's creating a foundation strong enough to carry the weight of your dreams. Long after the easy path has been taken by those who quit, you don't quit the invisible work, you embrace it. And that is where real strength lies. There's a single phrase that can change everything. One more attempt, one more hour, one more idea, one more failure before success. It sounds simple, almost trivial, but in reality, it is the defining principle of every major achievement in history. The moment most people quit is usually the moment before a breakthrough. They stop at the edge, thinking the struggle has no meaning. But if they had pushed just one more step, just one more day, just one more conversation, everything would have been different. The truth is, brutal success doesn't always look like fireworks. Often, it feels like grinding against resistance, feeling ignored, feeling exhausted. But that, one more, is how you accumulate advantage over those who gave up. One more iteration of practice, one more hour of preparation, one more moment of courage. This is why endurance is more important than inspiration. Inspiration gets you started, but endurance carries you across the line when your energy, your excitement, and your confidence are all gone. And the one who endures gains an invisible edge, an edge built by persistence, not talent, luck, or timing. Imagine your future self. Looking back, will they thank you for quitting early, or for doing just one more thing when the world told you to stop? The answer is obvious, because life rewards consistency more than it rewards flashes of brilliance. It rewards the stubborn, the curious, the relentless. So tonight, if you're on the verge of walking away, remember you are one step, one effort, one choice away from shifting your trajectory. That, oh, one more, is not trivial. It is your gateway to transformation. Push forward, take the step, try one more time, because it might just be the time everything finally clicks. Failure is not what you think it is. Most people fear it. They avoid it. They define themselves by it. And that fear is why so many quit prematurely. They believe that failure is a verdict, a final statement on their worth, their talent, their future. But here's the truth. Failure is not the opposite of progress. It is part of it. Every failed attempt, every mistake, every setback is a data point. It's information, feedback, a compass pointing you toward a better approach, a smarter strategy, a stronger version of yourself. When you redefine failure this way, quitting becomes irrelevant. There is no shame in trying. There is no loss in failing. There is only the choice to continue learning and improving. Each failure is actually an investment in your future success. If you are willing to extract the lesson, consider this: the people you admire most, the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the artists, the leaders, did not achieve greatness because they avoided failure. They achieved it because they reframed it. They turned obstacles into experiments, challenges into opportunities, and setbacks into stepping stones. And here's the critical part. Your perception of failure determines whether you quit or persist. If you see it as the end, you stop. If you see it as feedback, you grow. And growth is non-negotiable if you want something extraordinary. So before you tell yourself, "I can't do this anymore," ask a different question. What is this failure teaching me? Every lesson you extract compounds, even when no one else notices, even when it feels invisible. And over time, those lessons accumulate into unstoppable momentum. Failure is not your enemy. Quitting is. Redefine failure, and the path forward becomes inevitable. Persistence is not just about achieving your own goals. It's about creating ripples that touch everything around you. When you continue when others would quit, you send a message, first to yourself, then to the world, that your vision matters more than temporary discomfort. That action, even small and imperfect, carries weight. And that endurance is a choice, not a circumstance. Think about it. Every effort you make, every obstacle you overcome, every time you push past the urge to quit, it changes the environment around you. It influences the people in your life. It inspires those who are watching quietly. And it alters the trajectory of opportunities that haven't even arrived yet. Your persistence is contagious. It proves a principle far bigger than talent or luck, that consistency beats sporadic brilliance. It shows that those who endure accumulate advantage over those who falter. Every day you persist compounds, even when it feels meaningless, even when the results aren't visible. And here's the subtle truth: the ripples of persistence are not immediate. They move quietly, invisibly, until one day you see the effect. A connection appears, a project takes off, a goal finally materializes. And by then, it's too late to imagine it could have happened without your relentless effort. Quitting is the opposite of this. Quitting erases ripples before they can form. It stops momentum, and it denies future impact, not just to you, but to everyone around you who could have been influenced by your example. So tonight, if you feel like giving up, remember the ripple effect. Your perseverance matters beyond what you can see. It is not only building your future, it is shaping the world in ways you cannot yet measure. Stay, keep going, push further. The world depends on your persistence more than you realize. Here's the secret most people never tell you. The moment before a breakthrough always feels like the hardest part. Every significant achievement, every innovation, every leap forward comes after a stretch of uncertainty, exhaustion, and doubt. You think you've reached the limit. You think you've done enough. You think the effort is pointless. And right at that moment, most people quit. But the truth is brutal and beautiful. That is exactly the moment to hold on tighter. Because breakthroughs are rarely announced. They arrive quietly, immediately after the point where quitting seems reasonable. That's how life tests who is serious and who is not. Think about it. Every person you admire, every success story you've ever heard, has a hidden layer of struggle that no one talks about. Months, years, or even decades of persistence with no recognition. People remember the outcome, but not the relentless grind that made it inevitable. You are likely closer to your breakthrough than you think. The discomfort you feel, The doubts that haunt you, the pressure that threatens to overwhelm, these are not signs to retreat. They are signs that something extraordinary is about to happen. Your task is simple but demanding. Stay present, stay committed, and keep moving forward, even when you see no immediate reward. Momentum builds quietly, and opportunity arrives to those who refuse to quit, and not to those who run from discomfort. Imagine looking back at your life 5 years from now. Which decision will you regret more? Quitting when things got hard, or holding on, doing the work, and discovering what you were capable of all along? The difference between almost and extraordinary is often just one more day of perseverance. One more choice to continue. One more moment to fight the urge to give up. Here's the final truth I want you to hear: quitting is permanent, but perseverance creates possibilities. Life will test you. It will push you to the edge of exhaustion, doubt, and fear. Every challenge will whisper in your ear, "Give up. You've done enough. This isn't worth it." And those whispers are clever. They feel logical. They feel safe. But listen closely. Safety never builds greatness. Only courage and persistence do. Every person who achieved something remarkable felt the same temptation you do right now. They faced setbacks, critics, delayed results, and countless moments where giving up seemed easier. The difference between them and everyone else: they chose to continue, to push forward when the world told them to stop, to take one more step, write one more line, make one more attempt, even when exhaustion and doubt were overwhelming. Your breakthroughs are waiting for you just beyond the moment when quitting feels inevitable. The frustration, the fear, the struggle, it's all part of the process. It's the fire that forges strength, resilience, and clarity. Every time you resist quitting, you train yourself to survive the impossible. You build the mindset, the discipline, and the courage necessary to achieve extraordinary results. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you feel like walking away, pause. Remind yourself that the discomfort is temporary, but the rewards of perseverance are permanent. Choose to stay. Choose to fight. Choose to believe in yourself even when results are invisible. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that the exact moment you wanted to quit was the exact moment that made everything possible. Never quit on yourself. Your future depends on the courage you show today.